when an entire people are destroyed or perish by their own hand. It marks the end of a civilization. Today, as we go about our daily lives, we rarely contemplate such a cataclysm, confident that it could never happen to us. Yet, for some civilizations, this devastating fate has already occurred. Take ancient Greece, for example. From the 8th century to the 4th century BCE, ancient Greek civilization thrived, contributing democracy, philosophy, and art and architecture that continue to influence us profoundly. At its peak, Greek colonies spanned from modern-day Spain in the west, through to Russia in the north, and down to Egypt in the south. This civilization was a patchwork of competing city-states, each with its own government and patron deities. At its core was the bustling city of Helike, a prominent trading hub revered primarily for its worship of Poseidon, the god of the sea. Poseidon was known for his mercurial temperament, moody, miserable, and grumpy, which is fitting for a god overseeing the sea. A force vital for trade and transportation, yet capable of sudden, deadly violence. Helike would tragically experience this firsthand. In 373 BCE, the city vanished, swallowed by the waves, as chronicled by ancient writers across the Mediterranean. Over time, the precise location of Helike was lost, becoming one of the great enigmas of classical archaeology. Its story echoes hauntingly the myth of Atlantis, another ancient civilization said to have sunk beneath the ocean. This raises the question, what caused Helike's total destruction? And could Helike actually be the legendary Atlantis? The myth of Atlantis has fascinated humanity for millennia. Popularized by Plato, who described it as a powerful city with an advanced civilization ruling over a vast empire spanning continents. Atlantis was said to have rivaled the Greeks in might. According to Plato, the Atlanteans' misuse of their power angered the gods, leading to their downfall. The city was destroyed and submerged beneath the sea. For centuries, explorers have scoured the ocean floor searching for Atlantis, discovering shipwrecks and lost treasures, but never the city itself. Even renowned oceanographer Jacques Cousteau, who led underwater expeditions in 1975, failed to uncover it. However, another lost city mentioned by classical Greek historians could hold clues. Mirroring the Atlantis myth, ancient authors describe how Helike was also submerged beneath the waves. Both Helike and Atlantis vanished from the world. Both were swallowed by water, and both shared Poseidon as their patron god. Moreover, Plato wrote about Atlantis around 360 BCE, shortly after Helike's destruction, suggesting a possible link between the two. To determine whether Helike and Atlantis are one and the same, archaeologists must locate Helike's lost ruins. During the classical period of the 4th century BCE, Helike thrived on the shores of the Corinthian Gulf, a city with a rich historical legacy. The earliest mention of Helike appears in Homer's epic, the Iliad, which recounts the story of Helen, queen of Sparta, who was abducted by Paris of Troy. In response, Agamemnon, king of Mycenae, rallied the Greek forces, including troops from Helike and many other Peloponnesian cities, to wage the Trojan War and bring Helen home. Agamemnon's forces besieged Troy for a grueling decade, enduring relentless hardships, scarcity of supplies, and countless brutal battles without ever managing to breach its formidable walls. The prolonged stalemate weighed heavily on both sides, with the Greeks growing desperate to find a strategy that would finally bring the war to a decisive end. In response to this impasse, the Greeks crafted an ingenious and cunning ruse known as the Trojan horse, a massive hollow wooden horse constructed under the cover of darkness and deceit, meant to deceive the Trojans into believing it was a sacred gift, symbolizing the Greeks' supposed retreat and surrender. The Trojans, weary from years of conflict and eager to celebrate what they thought was their victory, debated the horse's purpose, eventually succumbing to the belief that the war was over, and that the horse was a divine offering to ensure their continued prosperity. Against the warnings of some skeptics, they brought the colossal horse inside their impregnable city walls, an act that would seal their fate. Under the cover of night, Greek soldiers who had hidden inside the hollow horse stealthily emerged, silently neutralized the unsuspecting guards, and opened the city gates to the rest of the Greek army, which had covertly returned under the cloak of darkness. This surprise invasion led to a swift and catastrophic fall of Troy, marking a pivotal moment in Greek mythology and history, with far-reaching consequences for the ancient world. Meanwhile, in a different historical context, the city of Helike held significant importance in ancient Greece as a prominent leader of the Archaean League, a confederation of city-states that fostered political cooperation and mutual defense. Helike was instrumental in founding influential colonies such as Priene on the coast of Asia Minor and Sybaris in southern Italy, which played crucial roles in spreading Hellenic culture, expanding trade networks, and facilitating economic growth throughout the Mediterranean region. The city's deep reverence for Poseidon, the god of the sea, earthquakes, and horses, was embodied in a grand temple dedicated to him, which not only served as a religious center attracting pilgrims from across the Greek world, but also significantly boosted the local economy through commerce and tourism. Helike's strategic neutrality during the frequent regional conflicts allowed it to maintain its wealth, safeguard its extensive colonies, and avoid the devastation that befell many other city-states during turbulent times. Poseidon was especially vital to Helike's prosperity due to the city's reliance on maritime commerce, as sailors and merchants regularly prayed to him for safe passage, bountiful catches, and protection from the unpredictable perils of the sea. However, according to legend and ancient accounts, Helike's downfall was precipitated by a grave offense against the god. The city's refusal to share sacred relics with an Ionian delegation, an act seen as sacrilegious and a direct affront to Poseidon's divine authority. This transgression allegedly invoked the god's wrath, culminating in a cataclysmic event in 373 BC, when a massive earthquake struck the region, triggering a devastating tidal wave that engulfed Helike and destroyed 10 Spartan ships anchored nearby. The city was swallowed by the sea, its ruins lost beneath the waters, and its prominence in Greek history abruptly ended, serving as a somber reminder of the fragile relationship between mortals and the gods in ancient Greek culture. The destruction of Helike was so complete and sudden that ancient Greek writers, unable to explain it by natural causes alone, attributed the city's disappearance to Poseidon's wrath, reflecting the deep intertwining of mythology and early attempts at historical explanation in ancient Greek culture. Over time, as the city vanished beneath layers of sediment deposited by the encroaching sea and subsequent geological activity, its precise location was forgotten, and its story faded into myth, often overshadowed by other lost civilizations such as Troy or the more famous Atlantis. The similarities between Helike and Atlantis, both prosperous, thriving cities suddenly swallowed by the sea, have intrigued scholars for centuries, leading many to consider Helike as a possible inspiration for Plato's account of Atlantis, especially given Helike's historical reality compared to Atlantis's legendary status. The search for tangible evidence of Helike's existence gained renewed momentum in the late 19th and early 20th centuries, when German archaeologists Adolf Michaelis and Alexander Konzi made a significant breakthrough by discovering a bronze coin depicting Poseidon, inscribed with the word Ile. This pivotal discovery raised new questions about the true cause of Helike's destruction and its relation to ancient natural disasters, prompting historians, archaeologists, and geologists to re-examine ancient sources and geological data. Ancient texts, including a detailed 2nd century CE account by Roman author Aelian, describe a catastrophic tsunami triggered by an earthquake as the immediate cause of Helike's demise, noting a remarkable phenomenon where animals reportedly fled the area 5 days prior to the disaster, which was interpreted by contemporaries as a supernatural omen signaling impending doom. Modern geologist Ian Stewart has linked this ancient observation to documented cases of unusual animal behavior before earthquakes, proposing that animals might be capable of sensing subtle environmental changes, such as shifts in groundwater chemistry, electromagnetic variations, or low-frequency vibrations caused by tectonic stress accumulating beneath the Earth's surface. This scientific perspective lends significant credibility to the ancient accounts, suggesting that the observed animal behavior was a natural biological response to the seismic activity that preceded the disaster rather than mere superstition. While the tsunami undoubtedly engulfed Helike, questions remain among researchers regarding whether the tsunami alone was responsible for the city's total destruction, or if additional factors, such as ground subsidence resulting from liquefaction, structural collapse due to seismic shaking, or even volcanic activity in the region, played a contributory role in the catastrophic. Contemporary archaeological efforts continue to explore these hypotheses, combining underwater excavation, sediment analysis, and seismic modeling to reconstruct the final moments of Helike, offering new and detailed insights into the complex interplay between natural forces, environmental conditions, and human vulnerability in antiquity, thus enhancing our understanding head-on. To truly understand the fate of Helike, archaeologists must first locate the city itself. The search for this lost city has reignited interest in ancient texts, which suggest that the remnants of Helike remain visible for centuries after its demise, with various ancient authors providing descriptions of its location. However, over time, the ruins vanished, rendering these accounts ambiguous and difficult to interpret. Consequently, archaeologists have been compelled to essentially start from scratch. By meticulously examining these ancient writings, they discovered a vital clue from the Greek geographer Strabo, who noted that Helike was submerged in what he called a poros. In ancient Greek, poros refers to a narrow water passage which archaeologists inferred to mean the Corinthian Gulf, a promising lead since the Gulf spans an immense area of about 2,500 square kilometers. According to the ancient sources, the city's ruins, much like the legendary Atlantis, should lie underwater on the Gulf seabed. Over successive generations, Helike has become a sort of holy grail for underwater archaeology, with the consensus forming that the city is buried beneath the Gulf of Corinth. Yet, the challenge remains: how does one locate a lost city on the ocean floor? This endeavor demands an innovative approach to archaeology and a new type of archaeologist equipped with modern technology. The search was embraced by Spyridon Marinatos, one of Greece's most renowned archaeologists, who had already achieved fame in 1967 for uncovering the prehistoric city of Akrotiri on Santorini. While some speculated that Akrotiri might be the fabled Atlantis, Marinatos found no evidence to support that theory. His true aspiration was to find Helike, which he envisioned as a Greek equivalent of Pompeii, an intact classical city preserved exactly as it was at the moment of its destruction, offering a priceless glimpse into the past. For Marinatos, Discovering Helike could potentially solve not only the mystery of its destruction, but perhaps even the enigma surrounding Atlantis. To probe beneath the waves and identify any human-made structures on the seabed, Marinatos turned to advanced sonar imaging technology. In 1973, oceanographer Paul Cronfield joined the team, tasked with scanning the seafloor. Cronfield recalls Marinatos' enthusiasm vividly, as the professor was captivated by the prospect of uncovering an undisturbed classical city buried under the ocean for millennia, with all its artifacts perfectly preserved. No expense was spared for this grand expedition. Marinatos commandeered a Greek Navy landing craft, equipping it with a drilling rig so that any structures detected by sonar could be investigated through exploratory core samples. The drilling ship, anchored offshore, would emerge from the mist, lowering its ramp to the beach, allowing a team of scientists and engineers to rush ashore, reminiscent of an invasion like Normandy, though their invasion was more about storming local tavernas for lunch. During that season, the scent of night-blooming jasmine filled the air, while the team relaxed listening to Greek music beneath the stars, immersing themselves in the rich atmosphere as they pursued one of archaeology's most tantalizing quests. This moment transported us back 2 millennia, to the era when the ancient people of Helike gathered for their evening meal, a truly magical period in history. Meanwhile, out at sea, Marinatos' team meticulously scanned the seafloor in search of any irregularities or remnants of ancient structures, an endeavor akin to searching for a needle in a haystack. Yet, remarkably, they detected something unusual: pockmarks arrayed in straight lines on the seabed. Since nature rarely forms straight lines, this pattern suggested human construction, possibly a road or a wall, though its exact nature was initially unclear. With the tantalizing possibility that the lost city of Helike lay buried beneath their vessel, the team deployed a drilling rig to extract core samples from the seabed. Each core retrieval sparked immense excitement, making sleep elusive, as everyone awaited evidence of artifacts that would confirm a groundbreaking discovery. The anticipation electrified the entire team, but their hopes were dashed when all they found was mud and gravel. After extensive drilling and sub-bottom profiling, the absence of any trace of Helike was profoundly disappointing. Despite tirelessly working through many nights, no sign of the ancient city emerged, and with the excavation season over, this chapter in the search for Helike closed. Tragically, Spyridon Marinatos would never resume the quest. In 1974, while excavating at Santorini, he suffered a fatal stroke and was laid to rest at the site. Thus, the location of Helike remained a mystery. Enter Professor Dora Katsonopoulou, an archaeologist who grew up near the Corinthian Gulf shores, close to where Helike was believed to have stood. Familiar with the city's legend from childhood, she recalls the story's resonance in the region, where Helike was once the most significant city. Inspired by this heritage, she dreamed of becoming an archaeologist to find the lost city. In 1988, Katsonopoulou assembled a team to realize her childhood ambition, picking up where Marinatos had left off by employing sonar scanners to map the Gulf of Corinth's bottom. Soon, the sonar revealed intriguing features. One area showed what appeared to be man-made remains, possibly related to port installations, while another, deeper zone hinted at the wreckage of ships. Oceanographer Paul Cronfield, now experienced with the region, analyzed the sonar data and identified 10 parabolic-shaped features beneath the sea, which was thrilling because, according to the Roman writer Aelian, the night Helike was destroyed, 10 Spartan ships were anchored in its port. For Katsonopoulou, the evidence suggested they might have uncovered an ancient port. If these 10 sonar-detected shapes were indeed the sunken Spartan warships mentioned in the legend, it would mean they had finally located Helike. However, sonar readings alone could not provide conclusive proof. To confirm their findings, the team needed to dive and examine the structures directly. Yet, they faced a major obstacle. The Corinthian Gulf seabed is extremely muddy, and when divers approached the targets, the sediment would cloud the water, obscuring visibility and making exploration extraordinarily difficult. These murky underwater conditions prevented definitive identification of the structures. Nevertheless, Katsonopoulou remained convinced that these submerged features represented the ancient port of Helike, leaving the question hanging: how could they be certain? She needed a method to narrow down the search area for Helike. Were there any clues that could place Helike near the sonar hits they'd found? Katsonopoulou turned back to the ancient texts, focusing on the work of the ancient Greek geographer Pausanias. In his writings, she discovered a valuable detail. Helike's location was described in relation to the neighboring town of Aegion, specifically noting distances. Pausanias stated that Helike was about 40 stades, roughly 7 kilometers, east of Aegion. Moving further east, he also mentioned another local landmark, the cave of Heracles Voraikos, which was said to be approximately 5.5 kilometers from Helike. According to legend, the people of Helike would visit this cave to leave offerings to the demigod Heracles, and importantly, the cave's location is still known today. This information was a crucial clue for Professor Katsonopoulou. If Helike was within 7 kilometers east of Aegion and about 5.5 kilometers from the cave of Heracles, then the ancient city must lie in the overlapping area defined by these distances. The port features Katsonopoulou had identified through sonar were well within this zone and aligned perfectly with the ancient geographical descriptions. Yet, despite multiple sonar scans, the only evidence found was that of a port. Why was the remainder of Helike absent from the sonar images? Returning to ancient accounts of Helike's destruction, Katsonopoulou realized she had an advantage over previous archaeologists. This led her to suspect that earlier interpretations might have missed subtle but significant details lost in translation. While reviewing Strabo's writings, she focused on the term poros, which described the body of water Helike was submerged in. In ancient Greek, poros means a narrow passage of water, but most archaeologists had equated this with the Corinthian Gulf, which was incorrect, because the ancient sources explicitly named the Corinthian Gulf when referring to it. Therefore, their use of poros must refer to something else. Katsonopoulou proposed it referred to an inland lagoon or lake. Her research suggested that Helike had not sunk to the bottom of the Gulf of Corinth, as previously thought, but had instead been submerged in an inland lagoon. This finding was a setback for those hoping Helike was the legendary Atlantis, which had been lost beneath the seafloor, not a lagoon. Still, this was a major breakthrough in the search for Helike, explaining why sonar scans revealed only a port and not the rest of the city. However, a problem remained. If Helike was submerged in a lagoon, where was this lagoon now? Currently, the area was solid land. Katsonopoulou reasoned, since poros means an inland lagoon, the city's ruins should be beneath this lagoon, which had covered the destroyed city. But where the sonar had detected the port, there was no lagoon, only dry ground. Yet all evidence pointed to Helike being in this exact location. Could it be that the lagoon had dried up over time? The presence of a port near the shoreline suggested that the city had once been on land. Consequently, the team concluded that since nothing was found underwater, their search would have to shift to the land itself. Stepping ashore, Katsonopoulou looked for any signs that the area had once been submerged. If she could find such evidence, she would be closer than ever to locating the lost city of Helike. Among the trees on a farm just outside the town of Rizamilos, she noticed something unusual, a bridge standing without a river beneath it. Studying the geology of the area reveals that the bridge was not always situated over dry land, but rather once spanned a flowing river. Over the immense timescale of millions of years, dynamic fluvial processes have continuously shaped the terrain, powerful rivers carved deeply through mountain ranges, gradually eroding rock and sediment, and fundamentally reshaping the landscape's contours. These rivers acted as natural conveyors, transporting vast quantities of rock fragments, sand, and finer sediments downstream. Upon reaching the coastal plains, this debris was deposited, slowly building up the land mass through successive layers of sediment accumulation. Seasonal flooding events played a crucial role in this process, as floodwaters spread nutrient-rich sediment across the plains, replenishing the soil and fostering fertile conditions that supported diverse ecosystems and human settlements alike. This ongoing deposition process explains why the bridge, which originally spanned a watercourse, now stands firmly over dry land instead of being surrounded by water. The river that once flowed beneath the bridge has since shifted its course by approximately 500 meters, a dramatic change that illustrates the river's tendency to meander and migrate over time due to sediment buildup and channel blockage. Sediment accumulation within riverbeds causes rivers to gradually silt up, forcing them to alter their pathways to maintain flow, a natural geomorphological phenomenon that results in the gradual relocation of river channels across the landscape. The bridge therefore serves as a tangible marker of these long-term geological and geomorphological changes, bearing witness to the river's slow but steady shift away from its original course. For the archaeologist Katsonopoulou, these findings were especially profound, as ancient literary sources had suggested that the lost city of Helike was submerged beneath a lagoon. However, her geological and archaeological evidence demonstrated that the site currently lies on dry land, with the once-present lagoon having been infilled by sediments deposited over the centuries. This interpretation was supported by ancient texts, sonar scanning of the submerged plain, and historical records of the lagoon's existence, all pointing to Helike's remains lying beneath the sediment-covered plain. Nevertheless, definitive confirmation required systematic excavation. In 1993, comprehensive surface surveys combined with borehole drilling techniques yielded a significant breakthrough when fragments of pottery were uncovered, indicating the presence of an ancient settlement, possibly Helike itself. The excavation team's efforts in 1995 were initially disrupted by the unexpected Aegean earthquake, which temporarily halted progress, but work soon resumed, leading to the discovery of Roman-era archaeological remains. Although Helike had been famously destroyed by an earthquake and tsunami in 373 BCE, these findings confirmed continuous human habitation in the area over many centuries. Ongoing excavation efforts uncovered a rich stratigraphy, indicative of a long and complex history of occupation. The most critical evidence emerged from pottery fragments found within a foundation trench, dating back to the classical period and even as far as the 8th century BCE, thereby firmly establishing a direct link between the site and the ancient city of Helike, much of which remains buried beneath layers of sediment and soil deposited over millennia. This discovery confirmed that we were on the right path and in the correct area, as the abundance of finds clearly indicated the existence of a significant and prosperous ancient city, rich with history and cultural artifacts. While the team initially uncovered traces of settlements from the Roman, early Bronze Age, and Helladic periods, they had not found any structures from the classical period, which is when Helike existed, until Professor Katsonopoulou's team made a groundbreaking discovery in 2001. Beneath an olive grove, they unearthed a series of structures filled with artifacts that once dated, revealed they had struck gold. The buildings were dated to the classical period based on the pottery, coins, and other items found, which dated back to the 4th century BC and aligned perfectly with the timeline of Helike's destruction. As Katsonopoulou carefully examined the remains, she discovered a poignant reminder that people once lived here. An object resembling a family heirloom, suggesting a deep connection between the inhabitants and their possessions. One particularly special find was a terracotta painted head of a female idol, which, although predating the classical period and dating back to the 6th century BC, clearly belonged to the inhabitants of this building. This artifact was evidently passed down through generations and was still present in the building in 373 BC, highlighting the continuity of cultural and religious practices. This finally provided Professor Katsonopoulou with solid evidence that a large city existed here at the time. Helike was said to have been destroyed by a tsunami in 373 BCE. The ruins her team uncovered matched the historical and geographical descriptions of Helike perfectly, but a crucial question remained. Was there concrete proof that this site had been destroyed by a tsunami and submerged in a lagoon? Without this evidence, it was impossible to confirm that the lost city of Helike had truly been found. Since the ruins might have once been underwater, the team re-examined soil samples from borehole drillings in the region. Their analysis revealed microscopic organisms typically found in marine environments, confirming that the soil originated from a lagoonal environment. This matched ancient accounts describing Helike's destruction and submersion in a lagoon. For Katsonopoulou, this provided definitive proof that these ruins were indeed the lost city of Helike. It was an extraordinary moment, resolving a century-old archaeological mystery and a deeply emotional experience she described as a lifelong achievement. The discovery raised the possibility that these ruins could finally unveil the truth behind one of the ancient world's greatest mysteries, the actual cause of Helike's destruction. According to ancient texts, Poseidon's wrath triggered an earthquake that caused a tsunami, which overwhelmed and submerged the city. But was a tsunami truly responsible? Upon further examination, the team found clear evidence of destruction consistent with a great wave. In 2 separate locations, classical remains of destroyed buildings were discovered, and notably, the way one wall had fallen suggested it was caused by the backwash of a tsunami. It seemed the ancient accounts were accurate. The city had indeed been engulfed by a tsunami. A detailed examination of Helike's destruction reveals that widespread devastation occurred even before the tsunami struck, as if the city had been swallowed by the earth in a sudden and violent upheaval. Leaving inhabitants with almost no time to react or escape the impending catastrophe. Located in the seismically active Gulf of Corinth, Helike's catastrophic end was directly linked to a massive earthquake that struck in 373 BCE, an event so powerful and transformative that it reshaped the landscape itself in profound and lasting ways, altering not only the physical terrain, but also the historical and geologist Ian Stewart, in his comprehensive study of a later earthquake that occurred in 1861 in the same region, found striking and telling similarities between these 2 seismic events, including phenomena such as coastal submergence, extensive flooding, and the sudden formation of large fissures and cracks in the ground, which further destabilized the area. The 373 BCE earthquake caused the entire coastal plain on which Helike stood to drop by as much as 3 meters, resulting in the submergence of significant portions of land beneath the sea and permanently altering the local geography and ecosystem. Stewart's research led him to conclude that this earthquake was responsible not only for triggering a devastating tsunami that battered the coastline shortly afterward, but also for inducing a geological process known as liquefaction. Liquefaction occurs when violently shaken, water-saturated soil temporarily loses its strength and cohesion, behaving like a liquid. This sudden and violent upheaval buried buildings, homes, temples, and infrastructure under thick layers of mud and water, effectively engulfing the city from below and making it impossible for anyone caught in the disaster to survive or flee. The sequence of events, a sudden submersion caused by liquefaction, followed almost immediately by the tsunami waves, created a perfect storm of destruction that overwhelmed Helike within moments, leaving it lost beneath the sea for centuries and erasing it from the map of the ancient world. Intriguingly, the city's tragic fate closely parallels the famous tale of Atlantis told by Plato, as Helike was a renowned center of worship for Poseidon, the powerful god of both earthquakes and the sea, who plays a central and symbolic role in the Atlantis myth. Given that Plato lived relatively close to Helike, it is entirely plausible that he or his sources heard first-hand accounts or oral traditions passed down from survivors or witnesses regarding the city's sudden and dramatic downfall. These vivid stories of a city swallowed by both the earth and sea in a single cataclysmic event might well have inspired the enduring legend of Atlantis, where a mighty earthquake is said to have sunk an entire civilization beneath the waves in one night. Thus, the real geological and archaeological evidence uncovered at Helike provides a fascinating, tangible, and scientifically grounded foundation for what was once thought to be purely mythical, highlighting how natural disasters can give rise to enduring cultural myths and legends that continue to echo through history and profoundly shape our understanding of the ancient world. According to legend, Poseidon destroyed the city of Helike in a fit of anger because of how its inhabitants treated some visitors who came to honor him. During Plato's lifetime, Greece experienced numerous devastating earthquakes, including events like the destruction of Helike, where entire cities vanished overnight. Given this context, it seems quite reasonable to believe that Plato took the real disasters he witnessed and transformed them into a story about an ancient civilization that existed long ago. This suggests that his account combines both factual elements and fictional storytelling, making it a blend of history and myth. Modern archaeological efforts continue to uncover more about Helike's precise location and the extent of its ruins beneath the sea, shedding light on the sophistication of this ancient city. These discoveries not only enrich our understanding of Greek history, but also demonstrate how human memory and storytelling preserve collective trauma through myth. By studying Helike, scholars gain valuable insight into how catastrophic natural events become immortalized in cultural narratives, influencing literature, philosophy, and our perception of the past.